Buddy Jeff, buddy. So we're gonna
Hey,
go in
Ryan.
today to an amazing episode. We're gonna be talking about leveling up your 5 to 9. I know it's definitely a different one today.
Yes, definitely.
To the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information, conversations, and education weekly.
And always there without fail. Good
That's
morning,
it.
Lisa.
Boom. Boom. I'm telling you, Lisa, I can't wait until Dan comes back because this way I can challenge it every morning.
You're gonna hit it back. And actually, we got some
You're in
competitors.
trouble,
Actually,
kid.
good morning, Ashley. Hope you're doing well. Thanks so much for
Hi,
joining
Ashley.
us. Daman, good morning, brother. Always a
Hey,
pleasure to see
Daman.
you.
How are you, sir?
Awesome. So I think oh man, here's my sister. She's coming in late. So for the fourth one, good morning,
How
Ryan.
are you?
From there. So Jeff, normally we kind of bring in a client on Tuesdays, but I think like this is a topic that I really want to talk about. And it's something that like even in my own development and things like that, I think it's important for everybody to kind of understand what they kind of look at from the 5 to 9, leveling up your 5 to 9 essentially. So everyone kind of thinks, hey, transportation is 24/7, which it is, right? But
Yes.
we do have times that we definitely disconnect. So we kind of consider maybe it's a 9 to 5. But what are you doing in your 5 to 9 a.m. or even 5 to 9 p.m. could actually help you break through obstacles that's kind of going on right now. At least kind of brings up here, bring it on, Jeff. So we're gonna kind of see it from there. So getting into it, like I said, I kind of throwing you for a loop here because I know weren't expecting this, but that's a good thing about us kind of freestyling this, right?
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
You're before, well, what are you kind of looking at when you're like, let's say when you, not necessarily when you wake up, or what are you kind of doing for like your own personal development? I know you've been in the industry for almost 35 years plus, and
Yeah.
things like that kind of change. But what's important to you for leveling up, not for yourself, but for your customers as well?
Yeah. Well, with myself, and one thing that I've struggled over years is looking at my inner self and taking care of me because I've always been on the service side of the business, whether I was working directly for a company, working for a 3PL, a 4PL, or now myself. I find myself getting totally engaged in what I do because, hey, let's face it, all of us in this industry want to succeed, whatever succeed means to you. It means different things to everyone, right? What our goals and objectives are. And sometimes we just get so entrenched in what we're doing, we just forget about us, And I said about that, about, the benefits from doing so, breaking away, like you mentioned, Ryan, like every hour you make it a point to take a 5-minute break or a 10-minute break, and just get out and go, man, whatever it might be, just to, to re-engage with yourself, to think the next steps. You say level up. It's all part of that, right? Of breaking away what's working, what's not working. And then, having one of these. I mean, I have these all the time. And it's like, write down those notes. When things happen, things that are said, take time out to read what happened, why did it happen, and then how can you do things a little bit better. Now, I've been, like everybody knows, I've been in the business for 35 years, and every day there's a new development, there's a new challenge, there's a new goal, there's a new objective. You're always recreating something that you created, if that makes any sense. That's the only way you're going to level up and get to that next tier, that next plateau, to out-service everybody, to differentiate yourself from others. That's what we try to do into the industry, so it's more of taking care of yourself, and then the backside of it is how are you going to take care of your customers more than you ever did before. I mean, I don't know. How about you, Ryan? I mean, what do you do to level up your day? I know what you do. I just said part of it, but what else do you do?
Yeah, no, I think it's like extremely important, like my 5 to 9 routines. And, these are even personal stuff that I do for myself. And so you're so right talking about how the industry, it changes every day. Like I woke up this morning and, hey, we're reading news about Hurricane Ian. And I'm pretty sure we'll talk with Dean with that tomorrow on the impacts.
Definitely.
And like the vaccine mandates being dropped from Canada, right? And those are brand new things, right? And it's like, oh my God, I couldn't prepare myself for that. But I think like, okay, so my 5 to 9 a.m. routine, and it's really important for me to, like, let's say when I wake up in the morning, take my dogs out and stuff like that, but get some alone time for myself. It's like really priming myself for the day. Just like you kind of got it. I've got a to do checklist here that I come in every morning and I do it for myself. But my day, honestly, it's different for everybody. But my day starts off with prayer. Just basically putting the good vibes into the universe that, hey, like, I'm gonna make sure that everything kind of happens. Whatever's gonna happen, it's gonna happen. I'm gonna control the controllables, like we always kind of talk about, right? But when I kind of start reading articles, I'm big on reading articles, listening to different podcasts, going on LinkedIn as well, right? Because once you kind of fluff out all the stuff that's on LinkedIn about like sales gurus and all the influencers stuff, you can actually get some really gold nuggets, right? And everybody watching, like, what do you guys kind of do to prime yourself in that AM? Because we'll take it at two parts in this video in terms of the AM priming and then the PM priming, even the midday priming, Jeff. Like, yeah, let's
Yes.
say when you're doing everything like that, you got some downtime to yourself and things like that. Are you looking at things like, let's say, some courses? I know maybe probably not, but like looking at the articles. What's kind of like your go-to?
Always looking at articles, always doing research, like Dean, when he prepares for every Wednesday, for Day Wednesday, he just doesn't do it for us. He does it for other podcasts as well, because he's seen on many. He's always trying to have his finger on that pulse. It's so important to have your finger on that pulse. What's going on in the country? What's going on internationally? How is that going to affect the supply chain? And then how is that going to affect your customer, whether indirectly or directly? And then what are you going to put in place in order to offset those issues and problems that are coming down the pike? A long time ago, and you can go back to a lot of my posts, I talked about the what if scenarios. Always look at the what if scenarios. They're so important to do so in the supply chain and logistics industry, because what you're trying to do is create the solution for the possible problem that comes down. We see that every day in the logistics and supply chain. It's how you're going to react and what you're going to put in place to avert that, to help out your customers, reduce their costs, or whatever it might be. So even though it doesn't happen, it might happen. So what are you going to do when it does happen? Those are the things that you should always think. A friend of mine said, also my father-in-law, it's the things you don't think of that are going to happen. And then the reverse. When you think something's going to happen, it never happens, But when it does, and you're not prepared for it, you're going to be in problems. You're going to have problems. So.
Yeah, 100%. I completely agree with that. Like, I kind of got a saying too, like, hey, like, anytime I got orders that are like, let's say $50 margin or something like that, those are the ones that kind of take up most of my time, right? And the ones that, hey, my customers are service and I'm using a good carrier and everything like that. It's definitely going from there. Damon brings up a great point here that I really, really love, is that, so true, Jeff. I think that many top performers get so engaged to a point that they're consumed in getting the job done. And that's so important, because everybody has metrics. Everybody's different. Like, I know some people are cradle to the grave. Some people have an ops team and a customer service team. So it's kind of, time is of the essence. It's all about serving the customer without fail. I'm guessing keeping the awareness to take care of, let's see here, of ourselves, and setting reminders to do something for ourselves every so often is important. Self-care and balance instead of risking burning out. I wish I could clap for that. Like, that is so important. That's one of the best things, like, I think I saw this morning, where, like, unless you take care of yourselves, you can't take care of other people. Jeff, what do you kind of think about, like, in terms of, let's get into burnout, like, has it been like, we all go through burnout? Is there a time that you faced burnout, and what did you kind of prep yourself not to face that going forward?
It's, I'm trying to think about this, because this is definitely ad hoc questioning. Burnout. So when you're in a position of management, sometimes you think that other people can't do things better than you. So you take on all that responsibility, and you put yourself in that mindset. You create that stress inside by saying, I've got to do this, I got to do that, I got to do this, I got to do that. But it's such the wrong way of doing things, because it shows that you don't have confidence in your people and what they do and how they do it. You have to change that mindset and delegate those projects, and not micromanage, but help them get to that goal and objective by telling them where they need to go, not how they need to get there. Let them, create that and self-develop themselves, because that's going to help them in their career. And that's going to decrease your burnout, because when you start thinking, when you're managing large operations and revenue and transportation and fleets and all of that, it could overwhelm you rather quickly. It really can, because you're in a position of power. All the decisions that you make are going to impact everybody, not just your customer, but all the customers that your customer faces as well, your people. So you really have to disengage yourself from that and think of a more creative way to empower your people and bring your people into that inner circle. Because in most cases, what I found out over my career is that they know more than you do, because they're in the damn trenches all day long, finger on the pulse, putting things, doing this, doing that. And once you do that, that stress level, that burnout is going to decrease. You have to understand, you cannot do everything. Your mind says you have to, but you can't. It's going to affect you physically and mentally. And then what's going to happen? It's going to affect your associates, your subordinates, your report tos, your customers, because you start venting all those issues and problems that you don't really realize. So, think about that. Think about the delegation. It saved me. I was like that. I'll be honest. When I first started out, nobody could do it better than me. And I struggled, and I just took on everything that I possibly, because I had something to prove. Did it help me in my career? Yes, it did. Over time, did it affect me physically and mentally? Yes, it did. But I got to a point where I said to myself, I don't give a shit. Literally, I say it in the most positive way, because that's how I broke away from that and started delegating many, many years ago. And it worked out. It worked out very, very well. Let's put it that way. So,
and that's, you know what? Yeah, no, that was perfect. I was to say, it trickles down to everything, family life as well. And that's like, for me, when I left my first job, I was cradle to the grave at my first job. And when I went to my second place, I had an ops team there to take care of my shipments and take care of my customers. And I was still being, not necessarily, and it wasn't my fault, like in terms of like I was doing this on purpose, but I still wanted to hoard everything. I was like, nobody could do it better than Ryan. And my boss basically pulled me in the office, and he's like, you know what, Ryan, like he spelled it out this way. He's like, you've built like imagine you made like a large pizza, you put your toppings, you put everything like there, you bake it, you made the perfect recipe. But we're not here to get Ryan's pizza. We're here to show you what our pizza looks like and basically combine it and get it to a bigger, like a better tasting pizza. And I love pizza, so like anytime somebody brings any kind of
it doesn't like me though.
Oh yeah, well yeah, that's that's what the 5 to 9 is for in terms of there. And delegation is a skill set, and
it is.
I truly believe that, because at the end of the day, it's not. Because I think, all of us who've been in the situation where we did everything ourselves, we don't want to be that person of like, we're barking at somebody, we're telling somebody what to do. But there is, and I want to say there's a fine line, because once you delegate properly, it's done. You set it, it's a system you set up, and then you're good to go from there. And I think like in terms of talking about burnout here, it's the easiest way for us not to get burnout is just by delegation. And it seems so simple, and it's not. We can all get there, and that's what I find is really important.
Yeah, and when I say mental and physical, and I said this several podcasts ago, I got high blood pressure from doing that. I mean, my blood pressure was like 190 over 110, because I was a mean guy. I really was in my early career. It had to do with no delegation, my power, my ego. I had to do everything, and it didn't creep up on me. It just smacked me hard. And I was at that point, 25, 28 years ago, I said, I don't give a shit, seriously. And lo of a sudden my blood pressure came down. I started rethinking my approach to the delegation, and things just started working out. And, because at one time I would consider myself a follower, and then
Mm.
became a very good leader and mentored people and coached people and helped them to get to where they need to be. And I kept that positivity and kept that direction and kept on the same path for, almost 30 years now. Helped out a lot of people, and I continue to do so because our industry is just so small, even though it's so large. And a lot of people out there are following in my footsteps when I started out, and I don't want them to get there because it's just it's self-destructing. It really is. It's a tough industry. Supply chain logistics is a very tough industry. It's not meant for all.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the right instructions, the right mentors, the right leaders to help you to go down that right path, you're going to be in trouble. And I was very fortunate to have some of the best out there. I don't need to name them. If they're listening to this podcast, you know who you are. And the best in the industry. Great guys.
So you kind of say that. And Damon brings up a great point here, saying onboarding customers becomes a challenge, especially with dealing with all the departments to cohesive operation with full transparency, while understanding the customer's needs as a manager or pressure can be turned up. And, even when we got the SOP, I know, Jeff, you were mentioning when the first week I was on that, I think you have like a 64 point SOP that you kind of do, or even more,
Yes.
right? That ensures that, hey, everything is set in stone. But at the end of the day, it's kind of like a blind date, because it's like first you're trying to court them,
Yes.
and then it was like that, and then you finally get there. This is the blind date, and you don't know what to expect, so you don't want to say anything wrong. You want to be nice and everything like that. But as Damon as well brings up here early on, it's tough, but it gets better, and that's the most important thing.
Yeah, and something Damon said, as a carrier, so many moving parts from top management down to the drivers, from sales to accounting, from safety to ops. You see, I understand what Damon is saying, that, and to help an individual become better in their roles in supply chain logistics, you need to start coordinating your business around your carriers. I am carrier friendly. Learn what carriers do, why they do it, how they do it, and how how much you can benefit from understanding how they work, because they have just as many pressures as you, as the customer or the 3PL or the service provider or a broker. You create a lot of issues for the carriers. And look, I'm not gonna let the carriers off the hook too. They do the same thing to shippers and service providers, 3PLs, brokers as well. Start talking to each other, learn about the different things and the mechanisms, what makes both sides tick. That's why I have that 64 point whatever when I go out to my customers and stuff. I am the carrier. I want to know all those particulars of how you work. I am going to take that 64 point profile, and I'm going to give it to my carrier, and my carrier, to make their life easier, they won't have to ask those questions at all. Everything they need to know is right there on that piece of paper. From hours of operation to contacts to where all their facilities are, their lanes, everything that they need to know, because that's the proper way of doing business if you're going to build a long-term business relationship. And it's like I said, that eliminates a lot of the burnout. Help each other out.
And that's what really important, because I really love that you bring up that topic, because that's really our topic for today: leveling up in your 5 to 9, whether it be AM or PM. Take an hour out of your quote unquote work schedule and go ahead and have those conversations, with your customers, with your carriers and things like that, to understand. And one thing that I've always been a fan of, I always ask a million questions, because it was taught to me very early in my career that the squeaky wheel gets the grease, so there's nothing as a stupid question. And, it's really important to actually go ahead and not act like dumber, or keep it, like you said, keep it simple, right? But you want to understand, hey, 1 + 1 has to equal 2. You don't need to guess about it or anything like that from that aspect. From your so you're doing your AM stuff, you're doing all your research, you're doing all that stuff. When you turn off, when do you start plotting for your next day, the same day? What are you kind of thinking of, like in terms of like your, I want to say like your PM kind of looking at?
That's that's funny. Right now I'm plotting tomorrow. I
See?
mean, I don't wait for the evening to do that. I know where I am right now. I know what I'm doing this afternoon, and I mean I'm going to a golf outing this afternoon.
Again.
But now I've got that talking to customers and other associates in the business. But I'm also saying to myself, well, I'm not sitting at my desk. I'm not doing so. What do I have to catch up on tomorrow? Plus tomorrow's business as well. So it's always spinning in my head. Even when I, lay down in my bed or watching television or something, those wheels are constantly always spinning.
Mhm.
Hey, I had a great day today. How can I make tomorrow better?
Yeah.
What's working? I'm not really happy, even though I'm doing fantastic. I'm still not. I'm never happy. It's just the way I'm built. I'm never really happy. It's always like, what can I do? Who can I partner with? What can my partners and I do better? What worked today? Did we fail? Just everything. You have to do that. The switch is never turned off. There's that great commercial I talked about not so long ago, the Corona commercial, where the husband and wife sitting in their chair looking at the ocean. The phone rings, they take it, they throw it in the ocean, right? Sometimes you have to break away and do those kind of things just to recenter yourself, to get grounded. But most of the time, if you're in supply chain logistics, your mind's always going, man.
Yeah.
I don't care what you say. It's always turning into that business.
And it's all about having like those healthy habits too, right? Like even for myself, when I turn off, going to the gym, getting that hour, listen to a different podcast,
I wish I did that.
things, right? And like I'm lucky, like healthy habits, like eat a clean meal, like just take a walk, go for a jog or something that's gonna get the mind going as well, right? And it's often when, especially when we're taking walks or like even in the shower, we think of, hey, how could I've handled a different situation better, right? We always have the best answers when the conversation was maybe like 20 days ago, right? So I always find that in my 5 to 9 kind of leveling up is, hey, let me go try a different course. I got the 2 guitars behind me. I'll pick up the guitar and start playing it. Just to kind of get my mind off of logistics and things like that. And as Lisa kind of mentions here, like, do it, Jeff. And it's awesome to kind of see here. Like as you said, your mind is always turning. I think you should throw the phone sometimes, but make sure it's like one of those cheap Motorola flip phones, so you don't have to like recoup a $1,800 like iPhone.
Nextel.
Yeah, exactly. Just throw them. That's fine. It's like I got 10 of those. I can get rid of those.
Flip phones,
That's awesome.
And not $1,000 iPhone.
Exactly. Leave the $1,000 iPhone at home, and kind of go from there.
But no, most importantly is that when you're thinking, don't always think about yourself. Think about your partners, your family, your business, your customers, your carriers. Always bring them into the mix while you're thinking, because you have to be well rounded from cradle to grave in the supply chain logistics industry. You always got to think about all these different variables, that the touch points that you deal with every single day. If you're only thinking about one thing, you're not doing yourself any justice. Have an open mind, be very versatile, and continually to think what's best for all, not what's best for me. I mean, seriously, that's what you really need to do. And don't be afraid to call. Like if I was doing business with Daman, I would call him up, man, what's happening on your side? How's business or whatever, any of those type of questions, hey, what's working? Hey, how is customer A doing? Do you having any problems or anything like that? Well, they're keeping me sitting there for 3 hours detention, it's lost income. Boom, you call up your customer because you're not there, right? You're like, hey, I understand that. What's going on? And it just, you're always thinking about those things for solutions constantly all the time. You have to.
And it's ongoing, and especially like people like I know like one of your biggest messages like to newer reps, like drop the script, like be human, and from there. And one thing I'm a big believer, and maybe this will kind of like ring true for people kind of like newer in the industry, is like, hey, if you're having problems on the phones or you're having problems with emails, don't just give up. Like try different things. Like I've read that take an improv class, or take like a public speaking class or something like that. Like take different things to level yourself up so that you can be better for your customers. And it's just not about hey, let me just go with the script. I got a lead. I think we mentioned it yesterday that I was reading on Reddit that this guy had like a 600 lead list that he had to call and things like that. And it's like, I hate this industry. I want to get out. And he's in it for like 2 months. And it's like, well, obviously your training wasn't adequate, right? But what are you doing for yourself? And I think with Daman kind of bringing here is that David would definitely be calling you too. So we're gonna have like a group call after this podcast.
Yeah, there
So
you go.
everybody
A kumbaya meeting,
Kumbaya, yeah, there we go. Speaking of kumbaya, let's get into the DAT lane of the day. Today's lane of the day is going to be reefer out of Lakeland, Florida, going to Atlanta, Georgia. Line haul RPM is $1.49 a mile. With fuel, it's going to be $2.17 a mile. Contracted rate with fuel is looking at $2.15 a mile. Year over year change has been about minus 9 cents. Comments: recent upward movement towards this lane, possibly due to hurricane preparations. The current rate is 20 cents higher than the August average. That's awesome to hear there. I think maybe with Lakeland, you got a lot of what do you call it? A lot of maybe some turkeys are moving, like getting some butterballs giving from there. But it's awesome there. So we got from there.
You know what you were saying before, and I wanted, talking about making phone calls. I'll sum it up. Don't fake it to make it.
Yeah.
Be you.
Don't dial for dollars as well.
Yeah. Be you. Don't sound like a mechanical, monotone, scripted pitch when you talk to people. It's like when you're walking down the street and someone asks you for directions. How do you act when you say, "Oh, you take a left"? You're just being you. You're just be you. Don't fake it to make it and sound like something that is just, what the hell is this? I mean, it's the best advice I can give anybody. Don't have that script in front of you and go, "Hi, my name is Ryan Mohammed." No, you can't do that. It's
no,
like,
you can't. It's not going to work. And it's about
it's
like
not
level, like
going to work.
It's not going to work. And that's why we're having the episode today, like make sure you take these courses, you listen. Like if you're newer too as well, record your calls and listen to them, and you can only get better by your own self-discovery and being yourself, right? Because as much as people say, hey, be yourself, don't follow a script, I feel in my mind, when it comes to scripts, I don't follow a script. I follow like a framework, right? In terms of I know what questions I'm going to ask. And like, if it gets a little bit too off topic, I know where to kind of bring the conversation back to, because time is of the essence for everybody. Right. So get rid of the scripts, and, always test, and coming back to your 5 to 9, like work on those different things in your off time, your morning. I know Lisa always mentions she does her affirmations in the morning, which I kind of do myself as well. Find things that work for yourself. So in the morning, 5 to 9, prep yourself. In the day, it's game time, and then in the night, kind of detach and then reflect for the next day. What do you think, Jeff?
Yeah, absolutely. And to get back to your comment about the questions that you're going to ask. Sometimes those questions aren't relevant because you have no idea what the engagement is going to be with that prospect. Where you have to have those questions on a fly because you're listening, you're absorbing, and then you're like, this is the question I want to. What the goals and objectives are and the end results that you want to accomplish after that call, but no two shippers are the same. It's like you have to be a chameleon and be able to change your skin on a dime based upon the response, that they're giving you, because it's going to change, and it's going to change rather quickly. You can't have those set questions.
Yeah, and it works too, especially when it comes to your niche as well.
It's not going to work that way.
Yeah, not for everybody, right? If you have like your niche, you're kind of understanding, hey, customer X does the same stuff as you guys. Are you guys kind of facing this? And kind of keep it open ended and not closed. And like Damon said here, get educated by having smart conversation and ask smart questions. And that's why I'm a
Yeah.
big believer in like improv. I know I mentioned it here, but improv is really thinking on the fly, like find your local improv class and just drop in and try it. Because just like you're talking with Jeff here, like, like all these questions that you're asking your customers and they throw you for your loop, you're going to be like, oh crap, what are you gonna say? Oh, let me call you back. Let me go check my script for this, right? So
Right, and you know what? Don't be afraid. Dan said this a long time ago. Don't be afraid to say no.
Mhm.
Don't BS the customer. If they ask you a question, don't be like that person is like and answer something that doesn't make sense. Say, you know what? No, I don't have that answer for you. But listen, I'd love to continue this phone conversation when you have some more free time. I'm going to look into this because I definitely want to get back to you and talk more about it. Something like that. But don't BS them.
Yeah.
Don't be.
And don't
You're
be a
going to be
yes
caught.
man as
You're
well.
going to be caught with your pants around your ankles for sure.
And you don't want that. And it comes down to like, let's say you're working with a customer and they give you like a new lane and you're like, yes, 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 I got a new lane. Let's go get it. And then you realize, crap, this is not
Yeah.
going to work through my network and go from there. And Lisa kind of mentions here, plan your work and work your plan. I couldn't think of anything better than that, like for her, when the plan doesn't go as planned, she has to remember to be flexible as life happens. It always, hey, maybe tonight I'm planning to eat some pizza, but then my wife say I want some sushi, so
That's it.
It's the way that we kind of
Be
go.
flexible, be open, learn to absorb the things that you never thought of, because at one point in your career, those questions are going to come up when you don't realize it. And then you're going to revert back and say, I remember something like that. And this is how, and what I said. I mean,
You got to throw
it
audibles
really
too,
is.
right? Yeah, you got
What's that?
you got to throw audibles as well, right? Like things
Oh,
will come into
definitely.
the picture, and you have those. That's why I'm a big believer too. Like you have like customer stories, like you remember a time that, hey, they ask it in interviews all the time. Name a time that you had a situation and how did you overcome it? You should be thinking those mindsets when you're having conversations with anybody, right? Like even with us talking here, like you're kind of like mentioning your stories. I'm thinking, oh my god, there's a time that I could relate to Jeff in this point of view as well. So just always be an ongoing student. I think that's big for us. And like honestly, leveling up to 5 to 9 is really, really, really going to take you to where you need to kind of go, because it doesn't your work doesn't start and stop when you sit down at your desk and then you close your laptop or open your laptop. It really doesn't, So especially in this industry, it's not like any other industry where everything's kind of moving parts. Tomorrow,
I'll tell you what, real quick.
Yeah.
I don't know how many years people have been in this business, but if I'm still alive in the next 35 years, let's have another conversation. I bet you any amount of money that what you're saying right now, that whole philosophy, everything that you said right now is going to change immensely. I mean, unbelievable, because I remember when I first started and the thought process and everything that I thought I knew, I didn't know. And then as time went by, you are going to be amazed 10, 20, 30 years from now, how much better you are as a person, how resourceful you are going to be. It is going to be amazing. Trust me, you're not going to know it all right now. You're not.
No, yeah. Even if there's people out there that they're not going to know it all, like CEOs and VPs of like these top companies, they don't know it all, right? And at the end of the day, like that's what the best thing about our industry is, like there's no even want to be an accountant, right? That was my major in college, and you do all these books, you do all this training, and then you're there. You've reached the mountain peak, right? But nothing really changes too much on that. You can do a balance sheet or do a
goes by fast.
Yeah, exactly. From there. So with that being said. Yeah, it's awesome. Tomorrow we're gonna have Dean tomorrow with Data Wednesdays. It's gonna be amazing. Please tune in, because there's a lot of impacts. Like I said, we're definitely gonna be talking about Hurricane Ian. We're gonna talk about the COVID restriction in Canada being lifted, and some other things that are gonna be important for as we kind of go into Q4. We are gonna be live again at 12 p.m. and 3 p.m. Eastern time on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Please like, comment, share, subscribe. Definitely give us all the engagement that you can. Want to thank all the amazing viewers. Jeff, always a pleasure, brother. It's honestly a lot of fun I love that I threw you off the loop today.
Yeah. Thanks.
You're welcome. You threw me off the loop yesterday with the obituary guy, so at least we're at time 1-1. All right, take care, everybody.
All right, man. Have a great day.
Centurion Trucking, our motto is people before profit. Today's market requires more transparency, consistency, and focus on what our clients need to win. Centurion Trucking and American Logistics are poised to help their clients achieve and surpass their targets. If you're looking for a team that honors your needs, dreams, and aspirations, then get a hold of Daman at